It's officially draft season, and one thing we like to do on this channel is go over mock drafts, look at the landing spots of some of our top rookies, and imagine what their player values would be in Dynasty Fantasy Football and how they would probably rank in Dynasty rookie drafts. Today I got a mock draft from ESPN. We're going to cover that. Then after we're done doing that, we'll rank these players / draft them and go over their landing spots and how they should be valued. But let's get this started. Let's start looking at this draft. Here's this one from ESPN, hot off the press 2 days ago from Jordan Reed, you see right there. And the first pick off the board, not a surprise. We're looking at Bryce Young to the Texans. And we've seen this in a lot of mock drafts. The 101, the QB1 in this draft, and in a lot of mock drafts. And the thing is, Texans are rebuilding. They're going to be getting pieces. They got another first-round pick. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, how they build around Bryce Young or whoever they decide to go with at quarterback in this year's draft. Moving on down here, and again, we're going to skip over O-line, defense, and go to our skilled players because that's what we do in Dynasty. So the Colts at 5 go with C.J. Stroud, and I love this. I love this for Stroud. One, you got Jonathan Taylor, you got Michael Pittman. You got a team that we know over the last couple of years that are consistently bringing in skilled players, trying to amp up the offense. They brought in Alex Pierce last year. They drafted Jonathan Taylor. They're trying to really raise the level of this offense, and now they got C.J. Stroud. We got some pieces in place already. We're indoors, so this is a good spot for him. At least he's got a guy to hand the ball off to and some talent at wide receiver with Michael Pittman and company. So moving on down here to the next player that we're going to look at, and we made it to 7. Will Levis to the Raiders, quarterback from Kentucky. Guy can sling it downfield. The Raiders is in an interesting spot. There's some talks about them and Jimmy G. We know the Carr's on the way out, possibly. And this just seems like they're probably going to be looking at a quarterback one way or another. Look like they put in Will Levis here. We know the dude's got an arm. We know this team is transitioning right now. Hard to tell what the skill players are going to be looking like long term here. We got a change at running back coming, possibly, unless they re-sign Jacobs. So we could be seeing some more pieces here. This might be an interesting spot for a QB to land at. So let's go on here and move on to another one. And Anthony Richards going to 9 to the Carolina Panthers. And this could be a great fit. DJ Moore there, Sling the Rock there. They're also going to be retooling as well. We can get some new running backs in there, some fresh blood. This could be a good landing spot for him. Also, when you think about him, he's a bigger guy, can run a little bit. A lot of people love the Konami code. You see a little bit of Cam Newton in this game, and the thing is, I saw a lot of people comparing that on the internet. I think he's his own player, but I think he's also good in his own right. I think this is an interesting spot. I also like the draft capital here. In other mock drafts, he's fallen to like 20 to 25 range, which draft capital wise indicates that he may not have the longest leash. But here at 9 is a very good possibility here. He's a guy that could really go high in the first round or fall to day 2. There's a lot of ambiguity with his portfolio and his stock, but there is some goods here for a fantasy football perspective that we got to be into when we look at Anthony Richardson. Moving on down here, O-line, defense. Boom. And we got our wide receiver for Bryce Young, and it's going to be Quentin Johnson. We got the size-adjusted speed demon here from TCU. Going to be a good pairing. Good athleticism here. We also got Nico Collins. So this could be a good transition process for the Texans if these two hit. One thing you got to think about, Johnston's going to be working with a rookie quarterback in this scenario, but he's got draft capital. We got the goods in the athleticism. We got the good in the production. When we look at his overall production over his career from a market share standpoint, early breakout age, the year after his sophomore season, a good market share standpoint, around 24-25%, and finished this season strong. So I like Quentin Johnston. I think this is a good situation. Not the greatest, obviously, but it's all right. Moving down to our next player here. We got some O-line. We got some defense. More O-line. Inside linebacker. And here we go. And this one's hot. This one's very hot. Detroit Lions at 18 select Bijan Robinson from Texas. Unless something funky happens between now and the draft, I don't see him falling this far. And the pairing of Robinson and Swift, that's nasty. That's a lot of speed. That's a good 1-2 punch. And I don't know if this is really realistic. It's probable, but I don't know if it's likely in real terms. But in fantasy football, in this alternate reality terms, that's nasty. Those two running backs together in the same backfield. We also got J-Mo from last year, so speed to burn. DJ Chark, if they keep him around. We also got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Goff there has been all right. He's been better than expected. This landing spot is very sneaky if they go this route. It's very sneaky. And you know what? That could be the piece that gets them over. That could be. They got some other areas to plug. D-line, cornerback, linebacker, and some other spots. That's what they're saying is their biggest needs are. But Bijan Robinson, though, woo, on that Detroit turf, paired with Swift, you can't deny that. And looking down here, next pick, 19 to the Packers, Michael Mayer. We had that in another draft here recently. I don't mind him going to the Packers. I think this could benefit him short term. And then when they transition from Rodgers, he'll already have some experience in the league. So he might be able to transition with that new quarterback. With him getting potential volume through Rodgers, that could elevate his value. And any pass catchers going to Green Bay automatically get a little bump in value as well. So you got to think about that with Mayer. But he's still a tight end. Tight ends should take a hit in value in rookie drafts because one, it takes them a while to develop. And then two, when you look at tight ends week to week, the tight end 6, 7, 8, 9 are like 5 fantasy points away from the tight end 25 usually. And that is something that you don't want to be into and paying a lot of capital and investing into those players. Let's move on down here to the next player. Cornerback, wide receiver. Here we go. It's at 22. Jordan Addison. I think this is an alright fit. I think this is great. They can build around Daniel Jones a little bit more, get him some weapons. Addison is the safest wide receiver at the top part of the draft. He can create separation. He has been massively productive. And the fact that he goes to the Giants, they're doing all right this year with what they got. And I feel like this could be a good spot for him. I think it could be a sneaky spot. Not everybody can go to the Chiefs. Not everybody can go to the Chargers. But they drafted Waddell last year. They need to keep building at the wide receiver spot. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries here and still been able to get guys productive. So a guy like Addison going there, when we got all these jabronis doing stuff, that leaves opportunity for a guy like Addison moving forward. Going down to the Ravens, we got Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I think we had Smith and Jigba going to the Ravens in another mock draft. But they've also had a lot of injuries at wide receiver, so this makes sense for why they put him there. Then Jigba and Rashad Bateman, they throw a lot of targets to the tight end position. They also run it a lot. So you're going to get limited volume to the wide receivers unless things change, which could happen. But this isn't a bad landing spot overall. This could lend to potential volume, but it is also a landing spot that could allow you to catch Jackson Smith and Jigba at a good value because it's perceived as not the greatest landing spot. We saw that with Rashad Bateman when he was coming out for the draft. He dropped in rookie drafts. Probably see him go at a discount in rookie drafts as well. Moving on down here, another wide receiver comes off the board. We had a wide receiver run. That makes sense. We saw a wide receiver run last year. The Chargers. In this draft, they went with Jalen Hyatt. They've been going with other wide receivers in other mock drafts. This one, Jalen Hyatt, makes sense. We got a field stretcher. We got Keenan Allen over the middle. We also got Mike Williams who can get downfield and do a little other things. Jalen Hyatt is a good fit here. Jalen Hyatt going to the Chargers, I like a lot. I like a lot of wide receivers in this area going to the Chargers. And I think Hyatt's kind of realistic considering a lot of the other wide receivers are going to be off the board by now, especially the big three. So Hyatt could be in discussions for the Chargers at 24. More likely, when the draft plays out, they might go another position. I could really see that happening. But Jalen Hyatt to the Chargers is a realistic possibility. It would amp up his draft capital in Dynasty. And let's move on down a little bit more, see who else is coming off the board. And that might be it, if I remember right. That might be it. That's it. That's it for the draft right now. Let's swing over and let's rank these players real quick. Here we go. We're on our tier maker rankings machine. And let's rank these players. And we already know what's going to be in the S tier. And that's Bijan Robinson. He's going to be there no matter what. He can get drafted to the USFL, NFL Europe. I don't care. He is going there. He is the premium prospect in this year's draft. And we are going to pump him up no matter what. He is going there, and he's not moving. And that's what the process dictates right now. You're probably going to guess it from the other ones, but we're going with the quarterbacks. But we're going to do things a little different. We're going to go with Bryce Young, and we're going to go with C.J. Stroud. Those are the two quarterbacks I want to go with. One, Bryce Young at the 101. C.J. Stroud, 5 overall, into the Colts. You can flip and flop these guys. When they're in the tier, that means they're valued very close together. And you can flip and flop them and do whatever. That doesn't mean I really love Young over Stroud. I'm kind of wishy-washy here, but in this scenario, I love Stroud. I love Stroud in this scenario. This is going to a great spot here. And he's going to have some skilled players around him. And I really like this. This is the best spot I've seen in all the mock drafts that we've done on this channel. I like this. So, keeping with the Superflex mantra, we got the quarterbacks here. We got 2 left. But we also got a lot of talent at wide receiver. But I really want to hammer home the quarterbacks and my thoughts on them. And B and C, think of them like kind of together, sandwiched together, but they're categorized a little different. So let's keep with the quarterbacks. Let's go with Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. The difference between these 2 picks and these 2 picks, one guy's the 101. Other guy landed in the best landing spot. Will Levis, the NFL likes him. Fantasy football doesn't. He has some question marks, like all these other quarterbacks. They all got their question marks. This is not a sexy quarterback class. But also his landing spot could be treacherous. There's a lot of question marks, a lot of ambiguity. Same thing with Carolina. He's got DJ Moore. He's got some weapons there. But again, it's ambiguous. He's also a developmental quarterback. He's got some good things in his game, some good things for fantasy. I love the rushing production or the potential rushing production he can give you. But again, you got to be leery with these quarterbacks. The thing about these 2 quarterbacks is that you can see some of these wide receivers going in between them. So let's just call B and C kind of together, and let's go over these wide receivers that could go over them. So Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Jackson Smith, the Jigba, the big 3. And then we can't ignore Jalen Hyatt because he's going to get bumped up boards due to this landing spot and actual dynasty drafts. Quentin Johnston up there. He's going to have a decent rookie quarterback coming at him, a 101 guy. So there's going to be some ambiguity here, but Jordan Addison here, safest guy, pretty predictable landing spot. We know there's going to be volume there once he starts seeing meaningful snaps. So Jordan Addison's a guy you want to look at. Jackson Smith and Jigba is another guy you want to look at here. I think this is a sneaky spot, not discounting him at all. These guys here are valued pretty close. And then going to the Chargers, Jalen Hyatt. Going into the season, during the season, he was not touching these 3. But production-wise, he was there this year. But this landing spot and draft capital is enough to make you want him. The thing about Superflex is these guys will mix in with these wide receivers. But where should you value them in terms of actual dynasty production and long-term? And value, the quarterbacks will trump a lot of these wide receivers. However, some of these wide receivers are going to be better picks because there is some risk with guys like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. You have to think about it in those terms. But I wanted to spread these guys out between B and C so I can cover them and shed some light on them. But I think I would go the big 3 receivers, mix in Anthony Richardson, Hyatt, and Levis. So let's do this one little tier here. So from safe production standpoint, I would probably do something like this. However, pure dynasty value with the quarterback position in Superflex, I would move them up somewhere. I would definitely have a couple wide receivers ahead of them. They're probably somewhere up in this range, something like this. Something like that, especially with Richardson getting draft capital and going to the Panthers. Hyatt, I'm not hating on him. I'm really just moving guys around, but I'm just saying production and value are different. I know I'm going to get some potential production from those wide receivers, but those quarterbacks, when you look at straight dynasty value in Superflex, they're going to get bumped up, but one's going to fall. You're always going to get that guy past the top 5, around the 8 to 10 range. Probably going to be Levis. Probably going to be him. He'll probably be behind the big 3 wide receivers, and maybe even behind Hyatt as well. And in Tier D, Michael Mayer. Mainly because tight end spot. Not hating on him. He is flirting with the first round here, but I believe in the second round, we're going to see the running backs come off. Remember, Gibbs hasn't came off the board yet. Tucker hasn't came off the board yet. Pretty much the rest of the running backs haven't came off the board yet. When that happens, the first round's going to be flooded. We're going to have like 4 or 5 running backs, maybe more. Because you got to remember, there's always that running back who gets drafted higher than expected. Then there's that running back may go lower than expected or go to that situation that you can't ignore. They get bumped up. We see this every year. A running back gets bumped up. So we may see that in this year's draft, along with the guys who are expected to go in the first round. This is a talented running back class. And I'm going to say this on every video, and I'm going to try to say this as much as I can, that you need to lean into the draft strength. And this year, it is the running back position, and you really need to hammer that home because it's going to be deep in talent. You're going to catch guys late in the draft. You're going to catch values. You're going to be safer at the top of the draft and just keep plugging and playing at the running back position. That's from a macro standpoint. And a micro standpoint, you also need to play values with the wide receivers. I bet you there's going to be more wide receivers drafted in the top 50, 60, 70 than expected, even though this is considered a softer wide receiver class, mainly because there's a lot of value to the wide receiver position. There's a lot of value to having good 3 wide receivers on your NFL team, which means teams are going to stress value in the actual NFL draft, free agency, and however they can get good, talented wide receivers. So that's something you want to take note of. You want to draft wide receivers with draft capital along with production as well. And if you can do that, you're going to have some decent hit rates. On top of that, you want to make sure they're from Power 5 schools and lean away from G5 schools, but you also don't want to ignore those as well because you can still get some talented G5 players. They just don't hit as often, so you just want to be a little bit leery on that. But again, just overall, look at the landscape. Lean into the most talented part of the draft. This year, it's running backs. And then next year, do the same thing, and you'll probably hit more than what you'll think you will do. Let me know in the comments below who you're looking to get in your rookie drafts. What are you doing with these quarterbacks? I'm still thinking these through, but really, landing spots are going to be huge with these quarterbacks. They got some deficits. They got some strengths. They're all up and down with me, and I really want to keep analyzing them before I want to mark them down to where I really want to be at with them. Because when it comes to their talent, these quarterbacks are very ambiguous. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. It's only going to help you going forward. We're going to cover more drafts. We're going to do a lot more rookie drafts. We're going to cover these players. We're going to cover dynasty values and everything else. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.